local interviews with NASB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Go Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, it's top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. Brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Good morning, Mrs. Vogt. How are you today?
Good morning, Seth. I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. So your first day of school in Bement, Mrs. Vogt. How did it go?
It went really well, Seth. I can't even explain, I find it hard to put into words what a difference it feels as a second-year superintendent compared to a first-year superintendent. I know I still have a lot to learn, but just the level of relief that I did this. I survived a year. I can do this job. I can do it well, and I have a great team here to support me. And then, of course, the support network of superintendents throughout the state. So, yeah, what a difference the year makes.
Mrs. Vogt, I got to tell you about my kid's first day of school. I just thought of this, and because you're talking about the relief it is to go through, and I remember you talking about this last year, how just kind of. I don't want to say how chaotic it was, but just, different. And there's a lot of new things. And, as the superintendent, things that fall on your plate that they didn't before. And so anyways, my kids for the first time are in the same school building with the same dismissal time. They were in the same school building before COVID, but they had alternating dismissal times because one was in pre-K, the other was in kindergarten. So, So they're in the same building with the same dismissal time for the first time this year, and my oldest knows the dismissal routine. Like she's considered a walker, so she leaves the building and I'm waiting at the side street. She walks to me, those sorts of things. My youngest is new to the process. So anyways, my oldest, she just does her normal thing. She walks out of the school building. She finds me in the car. And so anyways, when her sister doesn't show up after a few minutes, I get a little concerned. And I said, Grace, let's walk to the school. So we walk into the school, and the office, Mrs. Vogt, is just chaos. I mean, I have not seen chaos in a school building like that in my life. I mean, phones are ringing. You would think you're at the what is it, Wall Street? You're on Wall Street with all the phones ringing and people just throwing papers everywhere. I mean, it's not that crazy. I'm exaggerating just a little bit, but it's crazy, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I what in the world have I walked into here? It was an eye-opening experience. It really was.
So, Seth, usually what happens those first 2-3 school days, people are figuring out their routine. They get settled in. And then like this past Monday, it's like you start all over again because those first few days, some parents decide to take their children to school and pick them up. And then all of a sudden that next Monday, the child is on the bus. And it's like the first day all over again.
Right. Yeah.
And what do I do? And where do I go? And, little Susie, like yesterday, a girl came off the bus. I don't see Everly. Well, honey, Everly's probably sitting in her seat and you just can't see her. Okay. Getting back on.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Here. Okay, great. So it is. It takes a couple of weeks before I feel like everyone really gets into that routine. I'm guessing your younger daughter now understands where to go and what to do, and it's smooth as can be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is what happened. And so everyone in there is kind of going crazy. And I'm like, I'm not gonna freak out. Because I've been through this before. Like my youngest got on the school bus one time and she missed her drop off. And so she ended up on the bus when the bus is parking in the bus barn or whatever. Yeah. So we've had this before, and I'm like, I know these people, they're not going to send my kid somewhere she shouldn't be, or if she is somewhere she shouldn't be, she's at least someone has eyes on my kid. I know this. Yeah. So anyways, I'm not going to lose my cool. I've got 2 or 3 people trying to help me, and they're kind of not losing it, but they're kind of wondering where my kid is at, and I think it's on my behalf because they don't want me to get mad, and I'm like, you're fine. Anyways, she had heard from one of her classmates that walkers, what they call the kids that walk out of school to their parents that are parked on the side street, one of her classmates, which I don't know why she's listening to her classmate who's never had a first day of school at this building, but kids can't think that far out. She had heard walkers are kids that walk home. And Olive, my youngest, is like, well, I don't walk home, so I guess I'll go on the bus. So she went on the bus with her best friend, and we had to pick her up at the school building that was literally a block away from my house. And so it was a fun little first day of school, Mrs. Vogt. It really was.
But the thing is, she was never panicked because she knew exactly where she was, and she, in her mind, was doing the right thing.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, I mean, and I think there's also a lesson in this. Like, it doesn't help the situation for parents to freak out. We just got to keep our cool. I think most schools around us, particularly the rural districts, do a good job of, at least every kid has an eye on them, and they're somewhere with someone watching them. Like you don't see a straggler just somewhere they shouldn't be on campus or whatever.
Right.
So,
yeah.
anyways,
well, it all out.
It did. At any rate, that was about 7.5 minutes of probably nonsense nobody listening actually cares about. So, Mrs. Vogt, I'll ask you.
Parents out there who can relate to what you're saying. And I think what you said about don't panic, don't get upset. And again, the child isn't worried. The child isn't concerned because they think they are doing the right thing. And I've lived on the administrative side of what you're describing, where a parent is upset, angry. If we have a kiddo who is approved as a bus rider, they're on the bus driver's list, and it's those first few days. Sometimes kids get picked up. Sometimes they ride the bus until we get that routine. The child is always with an adult who will keep them safe.
Yeah. And one more thing. It's been 2.5 years since my kids have rode the bus. Like I have no idea. I have no idea where it came from that my kid thought she needed to be on the bus. But hey, we learned our lesson, and it's been it's been absolutely fine ever since then. In fact, it's the cutest thing. They hold each other's hands when they cross the street to get to the car. So it really is. I'm not big into sentimental stuff, but it is kind of precious, to be honest with you.
Hopefully you can take care of that sometime. And it's not just the little ones who listen to their friends. I was in the middle school, high school office earlier this week, and a student came in and said, I'm going home. And I said, do you have an appointment? Like what is making you think you're going home? Well, I got called to the office and my friend said that I'm going home. I said, well, honey, you have your backpack here that somebody dropped off for you. So did any teacher tell you you're going home? Well, no, but my friend did. Okay. Well, dear, you got called to the office to pick up your backpack. So now let's get you a pass to go back to class.
I love kids. Oh my gosh, they're something else at a lot of levels, a lot of times. So anyways, Mrs. Vogt, how has your first couple of weeks of school gone in Bement? So what's been going on lately?
The first couple of weeks have gone well. We are a district that does not have, a central HVAC system. We have window air conditioning units. So this week has been tough.
Oh no.
But what we have done, like our gym is not air conditioned. It's a 1950s beautiful gym, but no air conditioning. Our cafeteria is not air conditioned, and our art classroom is not air conditioned. So the way we have managed that is our window air units we leave on overnight, and we have fans throughout the hallways to pull the air out of the classrooms and to try to cool off at least the cafeteria and art room and hallways. And then our gym, we've just had our PE teachers do alternate activities this week because it would just be ridiculous to expect them to go outside, and the gym is not safe either. Mm-hmm, so we've just kept the gym portion of the building closed off. We have managed. We've checked in with our bus drivers. It's not comfortable, but it's tolerable. So we are looking forward to the cooler temperatures over the weekend and just trying to do what we can. The original part of our building was built in 1899. In 1899, there were not requirements to keep all the doors closed and locked, to keep all of the windows closed. Mm-hmm. So, when people say, oh, well, when we went to school, we didn't have air. Well, times were different then, and we could open up a building and get the air flowing through and we just can't do that anymore. So it's manageable.
Right.
And I am so very thankful to have a staff that is willing to think outside the box with me and just try to do what we can to keep kids safe and keep learning.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that, you got to think about those safety things. I mean, you can't just prop a door open anymore to let a breeze through, or even those windows. I mean, you can't open the windows anymore. It's wild. But also, I was thinking as you're talking there, Mrs. Vogt, like really other than yesterday, like there's really not been a breeze. It's been like 95, 110 heat index and just no breeze. Like it's just hot air just sitting there. So it's really not, it really wouldn't have been comfortable anyways. Have you been close to having to call off school? I mean, are your window units able to keep up adequately?
They are. It has been it's really interesting. I am by no means a heating and air conditioning expert. I am by no means a how to keep a building cool expert. But over the summer, when we had some pretty hot days and our maintenance and custodial crew were trying to get our floors waxed, it was, you know what, guys, let's prop open these classroom doors, turn on the window air conditioning units, and close off those hallways so that it doesn't take a week for the wax to dry. And it worked. So then coming into the heat this week, it became that thought of, you know what, we were able to do it on a per hallway basis for the summer work. Let's see how it works building wide and even our 1899 portion of the building, the hallways in the classrooms are tolerable. Our stairwells, we keep the doors closed to the stairwells. Those are pretty miserable. But we're not teaching class in the stairwells. It's just a way to get from point A to point B. But we've made it work. I remember being a teacher and not having air conditioning, even a window air conditioning unit, and days like this, it was really hard to keep up mentally when you were so miserable. And I feel like our staff, our students have stayed positive and they recognize what we're doing has been a good solution. So we have not, we've not had to close, but you bet on Sunday night, I was texting area superintendents just to say, hey, who else has window air and how do you manage this? And it was just us. Everyone else is pretty well air conditioned.
That's no fun to be the only one in a boat.
Yeah.
Huh.
But we made it work.
Yeah, for sure. Now, surely you're not old enough to have taught in the days when we didn't have central air, right?
Well, surely I am old enough.
No way. All right, Mrs. Vogt, I'll take your word for it. Where do folks go to learn about all things Bement Schools, Mrs. Vogt, and keep up on, if there's heat-related announcements or anything like that? Where do folks find those types of things?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
Very good. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools. My guest on the phone here for this morning. More to come with her on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Are you a good listener? Has anyone ever accused you of being a problem solver? Do you get a thrill out of having people say yes to you? If so, the Miller Media Group would like to talk to you. Here at the Miller Media Group, we have a ton of fun helping businesses grow, and we could use some more help. So if you or someone you know has marketing and advertising experience or any of the previously mentioned skills and wants the opportunity to earn with commissions over $50,000 a year, send your resume to sales@randyradio.com. That's sales@randyradio.com. The Miller Media Group is an equal opportunity employer.
Keep your health at the top of the list. We know you've got a lot on your mind. Breathe easy. The SIU Center for Family Medicine in Decatur can help and is accepting new patients. Family medicine covers a broad spectrum of care for all ages, all genders, and every kind of disease. They do this with a wide offering of treatments and specialty clinics for all patients. Call 217-872-3800 to schedule your first appointment.
Your own home without the maintenance. If you're 55 or better, a beautiful Liberty Village villa could be yours. This is Erin, and I invite you to come take a tour of our move-in ready villa. Click the Liberty Village icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Simply the finest.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone today is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She's the superintendent of Bement Schools. And Mrs. Vogt, I know that we talked a little bit before we went to summer break that your district was doing some technology updates. What's going on? How about some of this?
Yeah, so we've made a lot of progress. I'm a list maker. I am a goal setter. So coming into the job, I had 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals. After that, those 5 year goals, I'll have 2 years until I retire. So I'm planning to have everything done within those first 5 years, Seth. But what we did this summer is we upgraded our network wiring. We have switched over to Metro fiber optic for our internet service. We qualified for a grant and we pay nothing now for our internet service, which is a huge cost savings. We are in the process of getting new phones installed. Our intercoms and clocks have been replaced. So we were at a point where our intercom system and phone system were so old that like the unit that controlled our intercom system, they were able to find a similar one that was like 30 years old, and ours apparently was 2 models before that. So there was no way to repair or replace anything as it stopped working. Mm-hmm. So we are doing great work as far as updating our network and the equipment. We are also, so this is part of my 5-year plan. Sorry about that.
Gosh, I'm talking to a superintendent and the bell rings. How just, I just can't describe the rage I have right now, Mrs. Vogt. I just cannot.
Well, I'll work on that.
I am totally kidding. Like, goodness gracious. It's like when we were in COVID and people were working from home and they they had to apologize for their dogs barking in the background. And it's just like, this is what it is, like you're in a school, the bell's going to ring. Anyways, go ahead.
Anyhow, so part of the 5-year plan is we are still using some of like the very first model smart boards in some of our classrooms. So I am in the process of replacing a couple a school year. They're new line boards. Essentially, it's like a tablet on the wall. It doesn't need a projector mounted in the ceiling. And, teachers can connect to it wirelessly and it acts as a screen for their computer. So they're able to do some interactive work with the students. And it's a lot less hassle as far as connectivity. So,
sure.
Like I said, we're in year 1, we accomplished a lot with the technology task list. And within the next 3 to 5 years, we should have some updates in every single area of the building.
Like what?
Well, so getting rid of those old boards that just don't work anymore. We don't have the parts available to even replace them. And then we also have been able to offer this year for the first time several dual credit classes through Parkland. We have some juniors this year who potentially will graduate with 12 credit hours that our district has paid for. So being able to have the technology available for them so that we built it in during their school day, that one of the study halls is for them to do their work for that dual credit class. So just making some progress with the technology that is also helping with our academic offerings.
Now, I know it doesn't fall under the technology piece, Mrs. Vogt, but a week like this, you have to be wondering, okay, maybe when do we move central air up the priority list and those HVAC improvements up the priority list?
Well, I am not sure how that would happen in a building, like I said, that's originally built in 1899. I don't know that the infrastructure is there for an HVAC system.
Really?
I have never explored it, so it's something that I would be willing to explore. I have worked with our architect to come up with some plans for air conditioning our gym. They were able to propose a plan that would maintain the aesthetic of our gym, because it's a beautiful old facility, but they would be able to install air conditioning in that part of the building, which we're in a position, it's something we'll discuss at our September school board meeting, just what is the likelihood that our board wants to move that direction. And if they do, then we're in a position right now where we could sell and buy our own bonds.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we would do that is because just the way our bond structure is, our tax rate here next school year would go down if we did not buy our own bonds, which sounds great. But then the following year, they would go back to where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Seth, as a consumer, if I see my tax rate go down, I'm going to be happy. But then when it goes back to where it was,
you're not going to be happy.
Why?
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And so if we buy and sell our own bonds, our tax rate won't change.
Mm-hmm.
It won't drop. It won't go up. And by doing that, we would have the money to air condition our gym without a referendum or raising taxes.
Sure. Mrs. Vogt, I tell you what, this is probably a conversation to have next month, and maybe after a little more exploring. In the meantime, we got to let you go. Thanks as always for your time. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest. Network News is now.
WHOW.